So today, me and my duo Frosty are competing in the Duos Console Cup. Game 1. After Game 1 began, we discovered placement points were the way to go, so we camped in a bush, but we were forced to rotate, and this was a very steep rotate into zone, because we had to go up the mountains of Foxy, because at this point we had no weapons and no mats, so we could not engage anyone, and there was players right where we needed to go, so we had to take a long roundabout way to get to zone. Person on one side, one team on the other. We were squished right in the middle, meaning there was no way to rotate into zone without engaging someone. The only things we had were our pickaxes, and we were standing on top of the mountain. There was players in the valley below, and there were players fighting in the zone. So we decided to stay up here and wait for our chance to move. And so we took it. So when those players crossed over and into the water, we took our chances. We sprinted as fast as we could to get into zone. But even with that, we ended up having to take a couple of storm ticks, which was not good for us. Even though it was only a 1 tick, this storm still did a ton of damage to us and could be the reason why what you're about to see happen. But right as we walked out of zone, Frosty was beamed and knocked, leaving it up to me. And with the pressure of them up there and only a gray shotgun in my hands, would I be able to pull this off? No, the answer is no. I cannot pull it off, and it's time for Game 2. Game 2 began, and we immediately went back to camping in a bush. The reason being for placement again. So, after I'm just gonna let you guys skip through the bush part because I bet you that'd be pretty boring. So let's skip. And while we're in the bush, we caught a couple placement points, putting us up to 20 placement. And so then we had to rotate again. We were out in the open and anyone could blast us with if they get the chance. So we had to move quickly. We used the smallest pickaxes so that they wouldn't make a bigger spot for people to be able to see us in bushes. And yes, again, we went into another bush to camp. Skipping forward a little bit, again, we had to go out of that bush and move forward. But the problem is, our rotate was being blocked by the medallions. We had to show no fear and move straight into their territory. I dropped down into this little river valley area to try to avoid the medallions. But it was too little, too late. With the medallions chasing me down the river, I took cover behind a rock. I hoped this would protect me. Oh boy, was I wrong. With me out of the picture, Frosty has to clutch up here. He hid behind on the edge of the rock, hugging the wall. the medallions couldn't find him and decided to move on, allowing Frosty to rotate forward. It would be too risky to go for my reboot card, so he doesn't. He starts moving towards zone, but trying to avoid the medallions. At this point, all we can do is get placement, because Frosty only has a pickaxe. And he takes cover in the local bush. Skipping again through the bush camping part, he needs to rotate, because he does not pull zone. It's going to be a long, hard rotate, and he also has to worry about the Spire, meaning he cannot go through brutal box cars, because if the Spire sees him, it'll alert the players around him, and also possibly kill him because he only has a pickaxe. He farms up mats and continues his journey. It's going to be a long trek, if he can even make it there. And then disaster strikes. Game 3 began, and we decided to swap up our approach to one of a more action-packed approach, but still playing it pretty safe. We landed on the edge of the map in this one weird modern-looking building. We were able to get pretty decent weapons, and we were able to get out of there with decent loot. Then we started rotating towards zone and farming up some mats. A lot of it, because we were going to need it if we were trying to make it to in-game this time. We are at 40 points currently, and we came up here to look out and try to find our next opportunity to move forward. Because zone was closing in, and it was okay if we stayed on edge, but we just did not want to get killed during our rotates. So we had to plan it very precise. We had made our decision. We progressed down our lookout hill and made it to a small hut with a chest inside. The chest ended up not holding anything really that important to us, right? But at that point, we had 48 points. We decided to box up and camp for a little while, because this was probably the smartest move. Me on bottom and Frosty on top. But then the zone was closing, so we had to leave our box behind and start moving forward. Which means we had to go back into a bush again. Skipping by that, we had to keep rotating again because zone kept pulling away from us. These zone pulls were really grieving our games now. We boxed up again and were able to sit there for a little while. That was until... And then we got keyed by players who were pretty good. They got a couple shots on us and we got a couple good shots on them. But then... Frosty went down. Like, it was just me. And they ganged up on me and eliminated me. Game 4. We started the game bush camping again, but I'm going to skip through that and into the point where we had to rotate through. But in this game, it was a little different than the last rotates. Medallions were right behind us on edge of zone, and we had to get farther in if we didn't want to be killed by them. After creating enough space between us and the medallions, we went back and we decided to bush camp again. Skipping through that, once again, we had to make another rotate into circle. And since I had no weapons, I decided to pick up the Superman sprite, aka Super Bob. And he will be very important later. Game 5. For Game 5, we decided to try out a new drop. We had 90 points and we're feeling pretty good. We decided to land at a Bird gas station, and Frosty landed at the house right next to it. I opened up a spawner up for the tracking visor, and nothing came out, which was very weird, and felt like Fortnite was just trying to troll us at this point. Also, this is a good time to mention that my goal for this whole challenge is to try to get PR. I've never gotten PR before. Frosty has PR, but I don't. And so, if we can get PR, that'd be incredible. So let's hop back in. A guy was rebooting, and so we decided to rush him, not knowing this guy was an absolute sweat. I almost cracked the guy, but when he knocked me, he got siphoned. He finished me, and Frosty had the most insane luck ever and was able to camp on bottom and escape, but his luck ran out. And so, it was time for Game 6. We landed off spawn. We just decided we needed to camp, so we camped in 2 separate spots. I was getting pushed by zone, and I had to try to stay still. I took heavy storm ticks, and by the time I made it out, I barely had any HP. I was literally at 4 HP, which made me an easy target for a beam from another player. Frosty, on the other hand, was literally on the edge of zone. Half his body was on one side, half his body was on the other. Yet he was not taking storm ticks. And he pulled the circle again. This play absolutely saved our tournament. Medallions were in front of him, but he was also in circle, so he did not have to worry about rotates right now, which allowed him to move center of the bush to avoid being shot. Cue the epic in-game hype music now! What is up, everybody? Thank you for watching today's video. And yes, I did get PR.